One of my favorite YouTubers is Ali Abdaal, who not only has 4 million subscribers on YouTube, he's built a small company that's now doing between 4 and 5 million per year in revenue. And in order to dig into the business story of Ali's success and the way that he's serving creators, I interviewed Tommy Mallen. Tommy's the head of product at Ali Abdaal, and he also is kind of one of the designers behind the Part-Time YouTuber Academy that I just completed. The story is really a valuable one because Tommy talks about how Ali Abdaal pivoted. He started out educating medical students and now is teaching about YouTube and productivity, how he built the company, the way they work with creators, the kind of mind-blowing difference between how B2B companies approach content creation and video presence differently than solopreneur entrepreneurial creators. Tommy also talks about something I love, which is that the journey is the reward and then can lead to monetization. So if you want insights about behind the scenes in one of the best serving high value YouTubers, Ali Abdaal, and how his business is running and what the story is there, Tommy has it for you. It's in this episode. Enjoy. Well, welcome Tommy Mallen to Video Mojo.
And thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you across the big pond. You're over in London, correct?
Based in London, yeah. Irish man, moved out here about 2 years ago, and I don't think I can be uprooted just yet. I'm a fan.
And I'm in Northern California. And the 2 years that you just mentioned is really what we're going to focus in on because you've been working with Ali Abdaal currently as the head of product. And specifically the Part-Time YouTuber Academy that I just completed the last cohort, and it was the most robust, complete training program I think I've ever done.
Thank you.
You guys are doing amazing work, and really the success that Ali Abdaal and you and the whole team have created with the Part-Time YouTuber Academy it has been sensational. I know he's very transparent about the numbers, and we're going to get into the numbers, I think, a little bit. But, you know, what you're about, Ali Abdaal and company now is about $4 or $5 million a year. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, 4 or 5 million in revenue, and then we have fairly decent operating profit behind that as well.
And do you want to talk about that?
Happy to. So we are effectively, I think, and this is probably going to be a recurring theme in the way that I approach many of your questions, but within the creator economy and how that's developing, there's a certain amount of you kind of pick your own adventure. And so the operating profit decision within Ali's company was effectively a finger in the wind to a certain extent, where he said, oh, I think, SaaS companies and larger tech companies have outrageous profit margins. If we shot for maybe 60% operating profit, that would be a sweet spot. And that's kind of where we end up. So we shoot for 60% operating profit. We're still very much a lifestyle business. There's between 12 and 14 people on the team if you divide between full-time and part-time. And it enables, Ali's creative endeavors and everything that comes off the back of a business like this. But it's also a really exciting small kind of unit to be a part of. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at the moment.
And I understand. So this was the 8th cohort of the Part-Time YouTuber Academy, and you told me it was the most successful. Can you give me a sense about how it's grown in the 2 years you've been there and what defines the most successful Part-Time YouTuber Academy ever?
Absolutely. So I guess there are 2 ways that we can kind of quantify, 3 ways that we can quantify success. One is revenue, the other is total participants, and the final is your customer success, NPS scores, and so on. And this is the highest across all of those that we've had across the board. So when PTYA was conceived 2.5 years ago, it was effectively an arrangement of Post-it notes on a table in Ali's flat at the time. And when he launched, I think there was a real serendipity of the demand that he had created within his audience and the perfect product market fit. And so they originally launched what is now probably for context for your audience is good to kind of note, it's a high ticket offer. So our current offer for Part-Time YouTuber Academy, or what it's evolved into, is around the $5,000 mark. When it originally launched, it launched for somewhere in the $300 range.
But I did it for 1,500. So I did the economy trail or what?
So you did the what we refer to as the essential package, and the only reason that I don't mention that here is because we're parking the cohort model that we were so happy to have you as a part of in
And
favor
I was
of.
part
I
of
know
the final live cohort.
exactly. You have that big badge of honor that you get to wear from now. But no, so when the product was originally conceived, it was a much cheaper offer for far fewer people. And effectively, once Ali launched, it was very clear very quickly that the demand was far beyond what they had initially considered. And so they had a moment of, and everyone wants to be in this position, but froze sales, doubled the price, tripled the price, stuck a finger in the wind and said, maybe if we multiply it even more, this could still work. And it kind of overnight grew into this behemoth of a product that is now high ticket and pulling in millions each cohort. We've had a couple of cohorts of dips just with the market and a little bit of sales and marketing flaws that we've tried to rectify since. But each year it's generated maybe £2 or £3 million for the business. And we have done that over the course of 4 to 6 week cohorts of students through the year. So it's a super interesting model that has had a really interesting lifespan as well.
It's really impressive, and I want to get into the value that you're delivering as well as the monetization. But the other theme that is kind of part of Video Mojo, one of my core values around creativity is experimentation and allowing the path to be revealed to you. In fact, I'm reading a book that Ali recommended in one of his YouTube videos called The Pathless Path, and by Paul Millard. And Ali, I think, is living that. He talks about how he started out as a junior doctor in the UK medical system, and his initial YouTube videos were teaching medical students how to study. And then he evolved into this productivity and then this YouTube. Can you speak a little bit to the adventure of discovering that Part-Time YouTuber Academy was the calling? You just talked about, well, you found this demand, but he never intended to become a YouTube teacher, right? It just sort of fell in his lap, if you will, by putting himself out there and by doing and all the things he learned. Do I have that right? Or how would you color that, fill in the gaps?
Pretty close to spot on. I think there's a really interesting, if we kind of view it from a more business focused perspective, it's an interesting choice when your audience is a productivity audience who originally started following you for your, being a successful student through a medical career, to then take 2 steps backwards from that potential funnel that is opening up in front of you and to say, what if I taught people to be YouTubers? But Ali's the direction of Ali's company and the way that he views his content, and by extension of that, the products that we create, is all under the mission statement of helping people to build a life they love through inspiring and educational content. And within that framework, I think all of his content and the products that we create and the service that we try to provide starts to become a little bit more contextualized than why is this productivity guy doing a YouTube course. But it has meant that we've been able to grow this fantastic kind of creator network. And ultimately, I think the way that Ali expresses his ideas is what draws people to his content and then also to him as a teacher. And so when people have value that they want to share with the world, or they have something that they want to create, seeing someone who has the ability to express that as well as Ali can, and to the degree of quality that Ali can, is probably what opens the door for people to say, I could learn from this guy, even if his content isn't about being a pro YouTuber.
Yeah, no, I think that's really true. It's true from my experience of what attracted me. And then in the cohort itself, I was really impressed with his passion. He clearly loves teaching people about YouTube, and he would do each week these keynotes that were initially slated for 2 hours, and they were, by the way, at 6 a.m. Pacific time, and I got up to be there. But the last couple of keynotes, he went 2.5 hours nonstop, just because he's the fire hose's fire hose.
That's exactly it. And it energizes him so much. It's something that becomes almost inhuman, his ability to remain so engaged on the topic and so genuinely excited about it, but it's also one of the things that I'm impressed most of, when I look at Ali, and something that I think could be reflected more in the way that other people approach business online. If you can find the focal point of what you are passionate about and what you love to talk about and you love to teach, and then find people that want to listen, then in theory, all you need to do is relay that passion. And I think that's what Ali has teed up so well. And it's not lost on us that it's certainly hard to replicate, but it is a wonderful example of that sweet spot of passion versus the correct audience for, what he loves to talk about day in and day out.
Yeah, and it's also a wonderful illustration of what I call Video Mojo, the name of this vodcast, because he's captured, all of that we're talking about now is captured through video. I wouldn't have the same experience of who Ali Abdaal is and his passion for teaching if it wasn't on video all the time. And he's experimented over the years with cameras and so forth. But it is a unique talent, and it is an impressive one. So now you're moving to an on-demand version, no more live cohorts as far as we know, but Part-Time YouTuber Academy and all the rich resources, because we got access to Notion templates and Creatorpreneur course and lots of other courses that you guys have created. So you're the head of product. Talk to me a little bit about how you're evolving this offering, and we will have a link in the description for people that are interested in the non-live cohort. But what's going to happen now to Part-Time YouTuber Academy?
Yeah, I have to say you're plugging this far better than I ever could. So we'll absolutely have some links in the description for people to check it out. So effectively, the one I'll come at this from two perspectives. One is kind of particular to us and our circumstances, but also the broader lessons that we've learned from doing a cohort-based launch for anyone who might be looking into small group coaching, that's structured in a certain way. Effectively, from a business perspective, what we found with cohort-based models was that you are putting a lot of work into putting something together and then effectively closing your eyes and crossing your fingers and hoping that people sign up. And even if your model and your funnel includes audience capture, and we were checking and segmenting people by, I'm super, super ready to sign up and I have my card in my hand, and then often it still doesn't materialize into sales. It becomes a really unpredictable way to generate revenue for your business. And PTYA, the Part-Time YouTuber Academy, was the single most important revenue driver for our company as a whole. And when there were off launches or things didn't go as well as we anticipated they would, which is something that happened to us a couple of times, you then very quickly realize that the foundation on which you had laid your projections for the year are not going to be anywhere near what you thought they would. And you can't fix it because it's already passed. If you're only selling your product for a week and people don't sign up that week, you don't really have much time to do much to fix it. So one of the motivations behind moving towards a kind of evergreen model, or this rolling intake and this done with you over an extended period of time style approach, is to normalize that inflow a little bit and to give us the opportunity to say, it's a quiet week, we haven't really posted on Twitter, or we've only posted 2 videos on the YouTube channel and we didn't plug it in our newsletter, and we get to run some diagnostics on how we're kind of navigating that space from audience through to sale. And that is much more calming from a strict kind of revenue perspective. And the contrast, I guess, to the revenue stuff, because I don't want to go too far down the weeds of creator business necessarily, is that when PTYA launched, Ali's channel was much smaller and the extent of opportunity that was on offer was very different. He's now at a point where he's we have a couple of months to go, but he's about to release his first book. The channel has passed 4 million subscribers, on its way to 5. And me knocking on his door and asking him to stay in the country for 6 weeks, 3 times a year, is becoming slightly less optimal as an approach. So there are a couple of reasons. There's that kind of personal side, and then it's much more strategic for the business as well. So that's why we're parking the cohort. but the value is still there, and the drive is still there, and the love for teaching this content thing is still very much present, which is why we're not parking, all of this as a whole.
Well, you use the term "done with you," and part of what I'm really curious about, because part of the reason I signed up knowing that it was the last live cohort is because I know, at least from my learning style, that I learned better live. And I got up at 6 a.m. because he was doing it live. I could have watched the recording, but I don't trust myself to watch the recording. I show up live and I find real value in the live. So how do you keep the value in it when he's not going to be doing it live and people will have to watch it on demand?
So it's tough. I think with all of these changes, there are inevitable trade-offs that are hard to dance around, and it becomes very hard to equate like for like when we're just not doing live kind of instructional lectures anymore. One of the things that we're bringing into this new product and trying with this new approach is effectively the learning will be self-supported. So let's say, John, on your end, you watch the module and you note down the ideas that resonate with you, and then you have access to our team, the people who are built into Ali's business and who are applying all of this stuff day to day for a channel at the scale of his. And that we can then hopefully, while we're not teaching you actively in a live capacity, we can help you apply that learning and iterate on it. And we can bounce ideas and feedback and hopefully lead to a position where we're helping you actually integrate that learning as opposed to just helping you learn it. So they don't equate out to the same thing, but hopefully there's still an advantage there.
And will there be live events the way, just to give people a sense of it who haven't done it, not only were there the Ali keynotes, then there was Tintin, who's the YouTube producer, I think is his title, who did more interactive follow-up to take the content that Ali laid out into a more experiential level. There were some fantastic guest appearances that focus. I in particular recommend Justin Moore for people who are interested in sponsorships. And you can help me out with the guy that talked about thumbnails and how to do good thumbnails. And there was a session on shorts, YouTube shorts, that I haven't even watched yet that I want to watch. So are some of those sessions going to be live? And I definitely think there's value in your team and getting the feedback, because that was something that I also benefited from for sure. And those people, I guess, are going to still be there.
Yeah, so it's a great question. I'll do my due diligence and just shout them out quickly. So Justin Moore from creatorwizard.com, Ed from Film Booth, who runs Thumbnail University, is a wizard and an incredible creator who you should check out on YouTube. And then our shorts workshop was done by Dragonfruit Media, who work with creators like Mr. Beast and other large to say the least, creators on the platform. So, sorry, it feels like it would be remiss of me not to call them out.
No, I appreciate you sharing those resources with the audience, and there were more. There were
many more. The space wonderfully is full of these amazing creators and
Ali's so connected. Sorry to interrupt you again, but it's like he's got great resources. And a quick aside, one of the funny moments was we talked about Justin Moore was he did this introduction of Justin Moore, and you can speak to this since you're head of product and get involved with the sponsorships in some ways, but he thanked him so much and said, we owe you money, and we're now at, you tell me the level of sponsorships that we've moved to thanks to working with Justin. And Justin said, I need that video. That's a testimonial. I'm going to have to use it. And sure enough, I started following Justin. Oops. And I saw the testimonial actually posted on Justin's social media.
Yeah. So Justin is he's really, really good at his craft, and he's also just a wonderful guy. I will put my hands up so I can share, the kind of approach, very in a real overview, but I'm not actually behind the sponsorship side of things. That's our general manager of the company is a guy called Angus Parker, who is a wizard in his own right. But and so I sit more on the kind of outside of our YouTube revenue, so the AdSense and sponsorships. What can we do with this big audience that we have? That tends to be more my style. But I know that Justin was, had a hand in taking our sponsorships from very minimal through to the tens of thousands range for different video sponsorships and agreements and stuff. And he helps other people do it, and he's wonderful. So just to come back to your original question, the answer is yes. This creator space, for anyone who, I'd imagine most of your audience, if it's Video Mojo, are involved in some way in or broaching this creator space. But my favorite thing about it is the propensity that you see within this community for people to just help each other. And more than any other field that I have been a part of, it seems as though creators view the world as just, oh, this thing worked for me and I think it's really cool and I want to tell you all about it so you can try it for yourself. It's not gate kept, and that information sharing is so real and so valuable that it creates the opportunity for us to work with some fantastic creators and to bring them in for workshops that are genuinely valuable, because I think the people who are doing the best within this creator economy are people who are focused on just sharing that value and just giving and kind of sharing it all with the world. So we have the fortune to just be that intersection of serendipity where these amazing people also get to talk to a community of creators who are super bought into learning, and then it creates the outcomes that you're talking about where we have these amazing workshops with people who are sharing the secret sauce, the trade secrets.
As you look in your segmentation of the different people that are participating in your segment of the creator economy, do you see a distinction or a different approach from the B2B, corporate marketing people who are working on video marketing versus your solopreneur, creatorpreneur, in more individual or micro companies, if you will?
Absolutely. There's a really dramatic difference in the way that people are thinking about content these days. And I think it often comes back to the different ways that you can define success as a creator on any platform. And so if people come to us and they are looking to, and this is often the way with B2B products or B2B companies, oftentimes they are interested in achieving success via building brand equity. And so they want to use YouTube as just this massive top of funnel thing that, brings people in touch with their company and the work that they do. And they are all about just building that audience to the greatest scale that they can. As an alternative, there are solopreneurs or, people with small teams, or people who I doubt would even allow me to call them solopreneurs, who are using YouTube to funnel directly to a service. And success in their eyes looks like YouTube bringing in super qualified leads. And so creators like August Bradley are a fantastic example of this. August makes some incredible content to do with Notion, the software, which is probably beyond the reach of most people who use Notion, never mind people who have never heard of it. But in terms of a funnel, it creates a really, really positive outcome, because if you subscribe to that content from August, you know that that person who subscribed is really deeply interested in the really niche mechanisms of Notion. So I'll step back slightly because I don't want to get too granular on it. The approaches can be very different. Oftentimes, business and corporate entities are very focused on building brand equity because they think that that's still the way that you leverage creative exploits for business success, is just we need to have a bunch of followers. But they're not yet translating their classic and traditional lead generation over to the online space. Mm-hmm. And the people, the solopreneurs and small teams who are nailing it, are just ahead of that curve, where they've taken traditional business principle and said, okay, well, this is the same thing. Like, YouTube is advertising. If someone finds my YouTube video and watches 10 of my other YouTube videos on a given topic, they will understand that I have a certain expertise here and I can leverage that. So I think it's only a matter of time. It's, this economy is growing so rapidly, but it's just that question of who is more on the cutting edge. And it's almost a trope for me to say, but I do feel like corporate endeavors into the space are sometimes a little bit lacking in that bleeding edge kind of knowledge and awareness. But that's, I guess, what we're trying to share as well.
Well, not to mention more meaningful, authentic engagement.
Yes.
So one last marketing question, because you talked about the creator value ladder,
Mm.
and that implies essentially a funnel. And on an earlier episode of Video Mojo, I talked with Aaliyah Finkelstein about my concept of you open the door and they come in through the window. By which I mean essentially by being on YouTube, by being on TikTok, I make myself visible, and it is not necessarily the predictable income in a linear fashion. Aaliyah had a great metaphor. She called it a pinball machine, where people are bouncing around the internet, visiting different social media, opening or not opening various emails. And at some point, something happens. But it's no longer the kind of environment where you strictly have a value ladder and people go from A to B to C. What's
Absolutely.
your view and experience around that stuff?
That's a great question, because I think that there's so much experimentation happening in that space now. So if we say that as a baseline, all of purchasing in general, unless someone is taking a risk, in whatever context, that could be taking a risk on a new, chocolate bar that you haven't tried before. But generally, when you're purchasing from someone, you want someone to purchase from you, what you establish is that they can know you, like you, and trust you, and then they will purchase. And so the wonderful thing about endeavors on various platforms is that you get to build that kind of parasocial relationship with your audience, as so many people do so well. And then when it comes time to sell things, people are at a position where they know, like, and trust you. And if we take that as our baseline, the game then becomes how clever can you be with it, or what experiments can you run, and how many different directions can you point people in, so that on the day where I maybe want to hear more about YouTube, I can find my way to hearing Ali Abdaal, as an example, talk about YouTube. But if he's talking about productivity and I'm feeling more inclined that way, you kind of bounce people off various different walls to see where they end up, and what ends up catching with people. And our approach to this is very similar in that we try to be calculated with our lead magnets and the direction that we point people in. Often, it's a very simple kind of equation with, this video is about X topic, and so we will point them to X other resource on the topic. But we're now starting to experiment with things like, we are taking a 4-hour course that we have at YouTube for beginners, and we're making it available for $1. And that will become another lead magnet that we kind of toss out into the ether to see where it goes. Because effectively all we're trying to do is reconfirm that relationship of trust. And if someone signs up for $1 and it's a really well put together course, and I didn't make it, so I'm happy to give respect to the people who wrote it, and Ali for all the work that he put into it. We are just playing with this idea of, how do we get people in the door? And as you say, if they come in through the window, that's fine, once they know how to find their way around afterwards. So it's about the clever kind of arrows that we can put on the wall to say, hey, if you enjoyed this, you might also like that. And hopefully you keep people bouncing around that economy, you keep people bouncing around that proverbial supermarket. And the one thing we're trying not to do is have someone come out the end of one of our courses or products or videos, even on YouTube, and to think, that was great, and not be prompted for anything else, to have nothing else come out the far side of it. So the idea is that we're always following something up with, if you enjoyed this, there is more in this place. And that's not always behind a paywall. It's just about encouraging those touch points to keep building that relationship of know, like, and trust.
Yeah, and I think that there's two other things that I would say from my external view of Ali Abdaal and your company. One is that the value is there, that he genuinely wants to help, and that I find the videos useful. And the other is that you have that consistency going on. I mean, how many YouTube videos do you guys post a week, for example?
It's somewhere between 1 and 2 on average. We have tried, so the week just before.
I would have thought it was more.
That's not including short form. So it's
okay, sure.
3 to 5 shorts a week on YouTube, and then on average 1 to 2 YouTube videos, sometimes more. Never drops below 1 a week, really. So there's always a nice little kind of, we're pumping out content all the time, really.
And that's important. So you build the trust. So yeah, it's an amazing success story. I love the way that it followed the pathless path that Ali made quite clear. I had no idea that I was heading in this direction when I started out.
Mm.
But the market is obviously endorsing what you're doing and has underscored the fact that there's real value there, and I can personally testify to that.
I really appreciate that.
Anything else? Anything else I should have asked you that I didn't?
Ooh, that's a nice question. I think something that I'll just share something that I'm finding very interesting at the moment as we kind of move into
Please.
like what we do next after the whole creator arc and the part-time YouTuber thing. And it is, you've touched on it there with the focus that Ali puts on delivering value and making sure that the content is good and that you don't watch a YouTube video of Ali's and have half of it say, you know, behind this paywall, whip out your credit card and I'll tell you the answer to all the questions I've asked. Something that I think is becoming more important in this space is that people start to look at monetization as the end result of providing value to their audience and not the destination in and of itself. Because when people set it as the destination, they often sacrifice either their relationship with their audience, the reputation that they build for themselves, or the relationship of trust that they have with people who are going out of their way to purchase and to give them money. And what we try to do, and what I would encourage everyone to think about doing, is to say, if we could do this for free, like if the business won the lottery tomorrow and we didn't need to charge anyone for anything, would we still do exactly what we're doing? You know, do we care about it? Are we engaged? Do we enjoy doing it? And similarly, like, are we providing as much value as we possibly can within the constraints that we currently have? And with that as our focus, we work towards the answer being 100% yes. And then it becomes really easy to monetize afterwards because you get to very earnestly and truthfully say, we really want to help. And here's how we can, and here's the framework through which we're going to. I think if more people within this online space viewed their relationship with monetizing their audience through this lens of how can I genuinely be so wildly helpful that people think it's appalling that I wouldn't ask them to pay, then not only does the space become a better place, but also it just produces better outcomes for everyone. And I would like to think that that's the way the space is going. So I guess that's maybe my closing thought, but it's just something that I'm finding really interesting at the moment and I think is worth sharing.
It's beautifully said, and I think a very important takeaway. So it's aliabdaal.com, AliAbdaal.com,
That's
right?
the one.
And any other coordinates that, and if you search Ali Abdaal on YouTube, I promise you'll get right to his channel. He's how many is it? What did you say? It's 4 or 5 million followers now or subscribers to the YouTube channel.
Yeah, 4.2 something million at the moment. So it's Ali Abdaal. You spelled it correctly. Ali Abdaal on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, or aliabdaal.com.
Terrific. And Tommy Mallen, head of product for Ali Abdaal, thank you so much for being here and for being part of Video Mojo.
Super. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much for watching and listening. And if you're looking for another episode that talks about the business of marketing and using video effectively, I want to recommend this episode with Aaliyah Finkelstein. She's a professional marketing consultant and a very successful TikToker. In fact, we met on TikTok, and I think you'll enjoy and appreciate that episode. Thanks again for watching. Look forward to seeing you next time.